Hopefully this is working. I got a little bit of a different setup tonight, so we're gonna see what happens here. I'm actually gonna take a minute and get this all set up. So if you're impatient, then go check out my video that just dropped on YouTube. But in the meantime, I'm gonna need a minute here to set this up, check my parameters, make sure everything is working correctly. We are attempting to go live on TikTok again, but for some reason, okay, here we are. Okay, I finally found it. Finally got it on TikTok. I can view the live. Let's see how I. For some reason. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I should be able to. I should be able to see the comments on TikTok as well. And I'm gonna overlay these comments here. Hopefully this works out okay. We'll see. We'll see. We can only do the best we can. Okay. So yeah, restream. Okay, restream says that we can see the comments. Looking good. Okay, now I'm gonna hop over to YouTube, make sure that we can see and hear everything over there, and then I'm gonna share this out to Facebook, and then we could get started with the session. Okay, looking good. Looking good on YouTube. Beautiful. All right. How's everyone doing out there? Let me just take a minute here. I'm going to share this out. Do we have volume? Yes, we do. Okay, looking good. All right, yes, we do. We sound good. Looks good. As you can tell, I'm still trying to get my setup. I got to fix my computer and really so I can live stream properly. But in the meantime, here we are. What's up, Barbara Griffin? Mealy Lane Edits. What up, everyone? Good to see you, people. If you're new here, then just so you know, the topic tonight is mostly going to be like dream psychology, ancient symbolism, esoteric mythology, things like that. I have some questions I've been meaning to get around to answering that I didn't get around to last time. So yeah, we're going to cover some of that. I just want to share this out to every platform real quick. Make sure. Okay, that did not work. Okay, and it looks like the comments from YouTube are coming through on Restream. I don't think I'm seeing anything on TikTok yet. That's weird. Anyone who's watching over from TikTok, leave a comment. I'm not sure if I'll be able to see the comments or not. So we're here. I do have to work tomorrow, so I'm not going to be up here too late. But like I said, I just wanted to answer some questions. Okay, looking good. I'm gonna attempt to share this to Facebook. No guarantees that that's gonna work though. And if you guys have any questions, just throw them in the chat. Dustin, you said I'm not flexible enough to wipe myself since I broke my right elbow skateboarding. I can still use my left arm. What type of stream is this? I just randomly came upon it. This is a dream stream. So the main point is going to be to talk about dreams, dream symbolism, ancient mythology, esoteric wisdom, things like that. But pretty much we can talk about anything. You know, the topic of dreams leaves it pretty wide open. Out of body experiences, near death experiences, communication with lost loved ones, any type of religion or theological school of thought that you're familiar with, we can dive into that. That's pretty much what we're into here. I'm going to share this out to Facebook real quick. Hopefully it works. See, I don't understand the integration between all the platforms. It gets pretty confusing. Okay. Okay, we got it. I'm gonna share it out to some groups on Facebook and then we're good. Yo, Dustin, I don't think I can help you wipe yourself since you broke your right elbow. Why can't you wipe with your left hand? You're not ambidextrous enough to wipe with your left hand? Oh, you said I can still use my left arm. Okay, well, good thing you got two of them then, right? Now you just got to be careful. Don't mess up your left arm now, or you're really gonna be out of luck. Uh, yo, Cliff, if you're in the house, let me know. I'm not sure where you're watching from. Uh, who else do we got here? Again, I didn't. I kind of announced this last minute, so I know it might take some time for people to roll in, but that's cool. I really wanted to let everyone know that right now my video is premiering on YouTube, my newest video, and it's about the ancient history of the word spirit and the concept of one creator God and where that comes from. I go through a lot of the mythology, all the documented evidence that we have from the ancient Near East and things like that. It's a really comprehensive deep dive. I put a lot of work into it. I've been working on it for the last few months, really. So definitely go check that out. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube, then you probably didn't get the premiere notification for it. But anyone who's curious, definitely go over to my YouTube and check that out. Uh, oh, what up, Dill? What up, Dylan? Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you, man. I'm glad you found me over on TikTok here. That's cool, and I'm glad I can do the streams here and read the comments at the same time. Dylan, you're the man. I love you. Very, very good to see you. Uh, Also, in the meantime, a couple people asked me about the link tree that I was talking about, and I didn't know that so many people didn't realize what they were or what it even was. So a few people at work asked me about it, and I just figured I should let everyone know, like, that link tree is basically a one-stop shop for all my stuff. You could find my merchandise, you could find links to all my music, all my videos, all my social media platforms. And then every one of my social media platforms has the link to my link tree in my bio. So wherever you're watching from, you can go to my page, go to my bio, and you'll find a link to my link tree, and you can find all the ebooks, any courses that I make. I'll be updating it periodically and putting them on there. And yeah, that's definitely the best place to find all my stuff. And it tracks the analytics, so it helps me keep track of like who's watching from where and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely go check out go check out the link tree. What up, Eli M, whoever that happens to be? Okay, the comments are a little weird. I gotta keep checking back and forth between YouTube and TikTok because apparently they're not integrated. So that's weird. That is pretty strange, but all good. We're here. I think we're ready. I think I set it up. I think I shared it out everywhere it needs to be shared. Uh, okay. Okay, looking good. So tonight I want to answer some questions that I didn't get around to last time. I figured maybe we could even continue some of that conversation from last time. Cliff is in the house. What up, Cliff? Good to see you, man. How you doing, homie? Very good to see you're out there, still active and everything, man. Uh, Cliff is a legend, everyone. Just so you guys know. Let's see what we got here. I do have some. I collected a bunch of questions that I've been wanting to answer. Just really honestly, I answered all of these questions individually in like different comment sections and stuff, but I picked out all the ones that I thought were the best questions to kind of dig into during these live sessions. So let me just find them. I got a bunch. I'm still hearing fireworks outside, actually. Okay. Okay, I got some questions pulled up here from different people across different platforms. I honestly, like I haven't spent enough time really thinking about these questions to answer them really to my own satisfaction, but I got them here. I wanted to jump up live tonight anyway, just to let everyone know to go watch that video on my YouTube. And I figured, I spent the day cleaning, working on the stairs. I've been sanding them down and finishing them. So like everything's pretty much done. So I figured it was a good time to jump up live. I do have to work tomorrow, so I'm not going to be up here too long. But I guess some of these questions are really, really deep, and some of them are a little more simple and basic. I guess we can start with some of the more basic ones. But one of my followers over on YouTube asked me, and I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. It's Kaimanog or Kaimanog. I'm not sure, but I thought it was a good question and pretty relevant. They said, you mentioned that dreams are other realities. Can we time travel in dreams? And Kaimanog, if you're watching this, actually, I'll probably clip this out and share it with you individually because I think it's a good question. When I mention that dreams are other realities, that is more of a hypothesis than anything. Obviously, we can't prove that. But my most solid foundation for that idea is just basically the concept that whatever you think dreams might be, they're a part of reality. We have dreams. Whatever you think the origin of them is, whatever you think the fundamental aspect of them is, or whatever the fundamental components might be, they do exist. Whether they're a product of just your mind or they're some other external reality that might exist in some other physical realm in some way, in some ultra dimensional type of capacity. It doesn't really matter what your theory on the foundation of dreams is. Either way, I think we can all agree that they exist one way or another. So when I mention that dreams are other realities, I'm usually speaking from like the multiverse perspective, that like the potential for infinite multiverses are out there, and these dreams could potentially be reflections of those other realities. But either way, even if they're just an emergent process from the chemical compositions in our brain that happen to be going on while we're sleeping, they definitely have a direct effect on this reality, on your waking reality, even if it's just in the sense that they affect you subconsciously. So that's why I thought this was a good question. That's why I wanted to clarify on that. There's a lot to say about that, and I don't take a solid stance that dreams are definitely other realities, because that would kind of be a logical fallacy. It would be like equivalent to the dream of the gaps, like the God of the gaps argument. I can't just fill every unknown gap with what I want to about dreams. That would definitely be fallacious. So dreams might be other realities, potentially even other physical realities, but I definitely don't know that for sure, and at the moment have no way to prove that. Dylan, thank you for the rose, man. Thank you. Uh, yeah, so the other part of the question from Kamenog there, he said, can we time travel in dreams? And looking at it from the perspective of dreams being other physical realities, if you're going to go down that line of thinking, definitely. But even just as a psychological phenomenon, these dreams definitely, we experience time travel in dreams all the time. And the way that that works, it's less about like Einstein's relativity, and it's more about uh, perceptual illusions, I would say. That's my belief, at least. I know that I've lived out other lives in dreams. I've had dreams that felt like they've lasted almost a lifetime. Even if they didn't feel like they lasted a lifetime, I've had dreams where I had memories within that dream that span back many, many years. And I felt like a large amount of time had passed in those dreams. And I do think that that's a result of our brain kind of filling in the gaps for us, the same way that optical illusions kind of work. And it's the same experience that we have when we're watching a movie. And you can watch a movie, and in 2 hours, you can watch someone's complete life story, basically, in that movie. And it doesn't feel like you were time traveling. It just kind of feels like you were going along with the storyline. But what it usually does is it skips large portions, and then your brain just kind of fills in the gaps, or it'll even give you context clues to help you fill in those gaps. And it'll feel like a large amount of time has passed by, when really it's just pretty much an illusion. I think that's how the perception of time works in dreams, and I have reasons to believe that. I've talked about that more in the past, and I will be getting more into that in the future. But you also might be asking, can we time travel in dreams, in the sense that, like, can we enter into other periods of time throughout our history? So when you ask, like I said, dreams are other realities, and can we time travel in dreams? If those dreams are other physical realities, and going off of the multiverse perspective, that basically says that time doesn't necessarily exist. Time is a perceptual illusion that we've kind of granted just to be able to function in this physical world. And time itself could be a whole other episode. I'd love to do a deep dive just on the concept of time and Einstein's relativity, but without getting into all that, if these dreams are other physical realities, I always like the quote, and I used to think that Einstein said it, but I've tried to look this up recently, and I don't see anywhere that Einstein ever said it. I don't even know where I got the quote from. I might have even kind of made it up myself, but I've just been saying it for so long that I've become so familiar with it. But I've always said in this regard that uh, one way to look at this idea of the multiverse theory is that any and all possible outcomes can, will, already have, and are happening. Oh, Dylan, you said, what are your thoughts of us being in a simulation with AI getting more advanced? That's a great question. I'm going to be interviewing a friend pretty soon about AI, and he's someone who actually tests like the newer versions that they put out of AI. And this dude, he's a tech wizard. He really is. He's a genius when it comes to that stuff. And he understands this stuff way better than me. But it is something I've been thinking about for a long time, even before AI got so popular. One of my favorite authors on the subject is named Hameroff. Stuart Hameroff, and he's an anesthesiologist and a neurochemist. And I've cited his sources before to argue with like religious people, and a lot of people try to discredit him because his only professional practice has involved anesthesiology. So people think like he's not qualified to speak on it, but I think anesthesiology is probably one of the best fields to be in when you're studying the field of consciousness. So, but with that being said, of us living in a simulation, I think, of course, it's possible. I don't think that we could speak of anything in absolutes. Cliff, you said alive, awake, aware, lucid. Word to that. Uh, it is possible that we're living in a simulation. Um, the interesting thing about that is that if we are in a simulation, then it's nothing like the digital the digital verse that we've created with our AI. So my point is that regardless of how advanced some other simulation might get, they uh, their existence. See, this is my issue, and I'm glad you asked that, Dylan, because this is my issue here with the simulation theory. Is that simulation, these simulations we're referring to, like how we can create basically like a Sims video game, and they may not know that they're a creation of us. The issue with that is that if that simulation were to become advanced enough, even to the most advanced point where every single one of the individuals in that game is has some sort of individual consciousness, they can never they can never measure the physical mass of something. It doesn't matter how advanced that digital universe gets, there will never be a physical mass to their reality. So if we are in a simulation, then it's nothing like, and it doesn't even deserve to be compared to the type of digital realities we're creating with our technology. So, of course, there's no way to say for sure. I don't like to speak in absolutes, so there's no way to say for sure that we're not in a simulation. But we can be pretty confident that we're not. And if we are, we're not in any type of simulation that could ever arise from our type of technology. It would have to be a completely different technology because, like I said, we have the ability to measure physical structures. The digital realm in these simulations that we create, basically these digital versions of reality that we create, they're completely dependent on their photoelectric activity. They literally live in a completely digital realm. So if we are in a simulation, at least we can be sure that we're not in a digital simulation. You know, there's a measurable difference between digital reality and physical reality. So so that was always my issue. And this goes back to even all the way back to Aristotle. Like we're not the first ones with our technology these days to question something along those lines. Like the brain in the vat thing has been a common philosophical conversation for a long time. This is nothing new. And when this whole simulation theory started going around like a few years ago, I never really understood how someone could entertain it for too long without just realizing that obviously we're not in a digital reality. And yes, those digital realities that we create, AI could make the most advanced video game ever, and they might be self-conscious, and they might have uh, some sort of individual identities within those simulations, and they might not know about the physical world outside of that. They may only live in that dimension. Regardless, they can never create like an electron microscope that will be able to view atoms and subatomic particles. If they do, it's going to be, well, they just can't. It's going to be digitized holographic, some sort of digitized holographic version of. Even then, it won't, like, they can't measure particles. They won't be able to measure the mass of the particles because they live in a digital reality of ones and zeros that don't contain it doesn't contain things like fundamental particles. The only fundamental particles it contains is photons, and we know that we live in a reality that's not only comprised of photons. We know that there's photons out there and they're capable of creating this digital reality, but those photons are not they don't really cover the spectrum of every other particle, especially when we start talking about like supersymmetry and stuff like that. So uh so if we do live in a simulation, it's nothing like what we imagine. It's nothing like some sort of advanced digital simulation like we would think. And if that's the case, then there's no way for us to know it or understand it or prove it otherwise. Of course, we could keep inquiring. And no matter how advanced AI gets, it'll never be able to turn that digital universe into a physical universe. If you understand what I mean by that. Uh, when you're strictly speaking about photons and ones and zeros, there's no potential for gravity even to take place. So yes, you could say that the gravity would potentially be programmed in there. And again, if we're gonna take it that advanced, then there's no way to discern our reality from a simulation in that sense, except that we're definitely not part of a simulation that would result from these digital realities that we're creating, if that makes sense. And I think that's why like so many scientists like scoff at that idea. And I think for the average person, like it might seem really intriguing and fascinating, and I get that like at first glance, but take it as rationally as you can. I think we can all agree that the laws of physics wouldn't really apply in that digital reality. Matrix Vortex, yeah, Cliff, that's what I'm talking about, man. Exactly. Dylan, that's a great question, though. Thank you. So the answer is that, hey, it's possible, but if that is the case, it's nothing like what we're thinking it is. Chronojack said, "Can dreams act as portals to other universes or realities?" Exactly. That's exactly what they are. And again, depending on what you think that reality is, they could potentially be portals to other physical realities. That I would never say, I at least at this moment, I can't say definitively, but sure, it's possible. But dreams are definitely one thing I can say for sure with confidence is that dreams are portals to other realities in your subconscious mind. Whether or not you think that those are like other physical universes, we could debate on that all day, but for sure they definitely act as portals to other universes or realities, and that's kind of like the whole point. You can manifest that reality in your dream by creating your dream ahead of time, or by learning to lucid dream and to manipulate your dream content. So that was a good question, Chrono Jack. I'm still hearing the fireworks outside, so if you guys hear that, excuse me, but it's not too loud. It's pretty far in the distance. I was going to start this live stream outside so we could watch the sunset together, but by the time I got my phone set up and stuff, the sun was basically already down, so I just reeled it in. It's another one of the reasons why I was kind of late. But oh, what do we got here? Okay, I see that. For some reason, it's not showing me that comment. Let's go over to YouTube. Oh, Dustin. So, great comment, Dustin. Why does that one keep popping up? I might have to hide that comment. Yeah, I'm gonna go through these questions. Not gonna read all of them. Okay, Mythos Hunter. That's one of my followers on YouTube, Mythos Hunter. You are the man or the woman. I appreciate you and all your feedback on everything. And I love your content. You put out a lot of cool stuff too. Mythos Hunter said, is it possible to extract meaningful information from dreams that lack any narrative or logic? The answer is absolutely. This is basically like an irreducible an argument from irreducible credulity, basically, I would say, because you could say that the dreams lack narrative or logic, and like most dreams do, but they everyone says that there's a reason for everything, and I never really like that saying, because in my mind it's like what they're implying when they say that there's a reason for everything. They're implying that there's a higher reason or a good reason for everything. In my mind, anytime anyone says that, I'm always like, sure, we know there's a reason for everything. Like, I got a flat tire because I ran over the nail. That doesn't mean that there's a good reason for it. Like, I got a flat tire because, someone let their loose change fall out of their pocket and the nail fell into the road. And that happened because they put that nail in their pocket because when they were working, it was getting in their way. So they decided to slip that nail in their pocket. And sure, you can keep going back and back and back and find the reasoning for everything. Obviously, there's a reason for everything. That doesn't mean that there's like a higher purpose or a higher reason. Or I'm not saying that there's not a higher reason for everything. I'm just saying that when you say there's a reason for everything, that's that doesn't automatically necessitate that there's a higher reason for everything. So my point here is that when you say you have a dream with no narrative or logic, there's still a purpose behind that dream. And although it might not be like the deepest, most profound reason, it's still some sort of revelation of your subconscious mind. So it's still important to take it seriously and try to understand what did inspire that dream and where did it come from and why did you have it? Because there's a reason. The reason might just be because because of something that you experienced earlier that day. That might have been the core reasoning. That might have been the main thing that sparked that dream for you. It doesn't mean that there is a deep, complex, higher reason for that dream, but there's still a reason and there's still a lesson to be learned from it, no matter what. But of course, I think some are more important than others. Some are more crucial and more profound than others, but they're all crucial and profound in some way. But yeah, that's a great question. And then also, if you experience a dream that seems to have no narrative and no logic to it, it's important to keep in mind that a lot of dreams are like puzzle pieces, and you need to put all of the pieces together in order to see the picture. One puzzle piece by itself doesn't make any logical sense, but sometimes you could fit that into a broader narrative and find the actual underlying reason for it. And that's why I think it's so important to write down your dreams and or record them on your phone and just try to keep track of them, because you could put these pieces together as you familiarize yourself with your own dream content. I have dream journals for sale on my Etsy shop, so definitely go over there and check that out. Enter the code word dream and you could get 10% off. So yeah, I'm going to be putting out that ebook that I made on how to master your dreams. I'm going to be putting that out as a physical book. So the ebook is for free, but if anyone wants to buy the physical book, I'm going to make the price as low as I possibly can for everyone, cuz I want people to be able to afford it. I don't even need to make much money off of it. I don't care if I make $1 per sale or something. But I really just hope it'll help people. And then with that printed book, I'm gonna leave like I'm gonna leave like 100 pages in the back of the book, just for you to write and record your dreams. So if you buy the dream book, you'll also basically get your own personal dream journal with it. And I think it could be helpful to have my guide on how to lucid dream in the front of the book, and then have your empty pages in the back to record your dreams. I think that would be pretty effective. Dylan, man, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much, man. You really are. You're a good man. Thank you. Uh yeah, so that's why it's important to keep a dream journal. Also for a multitude of other reasons. I'm gonna have to hide this message because it won't. Okay. Sorry, Dustin. Okay. So many questions. Like, what are we at? We're at 38 minutes already. Wow. I feel like we've only gotten like 10 minutes into this. How did we get at 38 minutes already? I got so many questions here. I don't know exactly how I want to attack this. Let's. Oh. Oh, no, you know what? Actually, I answered that question really thoroughly. There's no need to go there. What am I missing? I know I got more here somewhere. Okay, so yeah, someone asked me, um, yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that name at all. So this is a fun question. Somebody asked me if the electrical activity from our brain. This was a comment on one of the shorts that I shared from my biofields and geomagnetism from that video that I made. I shared a short from that video, or a reel from that video, and under one of those shorts, someone left this comment, and they said, if the electrical activity from our brains can be measured from outside of our brains, will we ever be able to produce electricity with our brains? And I know it sounds like far-fetched and ridiculous, but I think it's a fun question. It's a good one. Honestly, the answer is yes. And in a way, we kind of already do it. But the most important thing to keep in mind is the scientific law of conservation of energy, that that if we're producing enough, because our brain produces electricity, and I've talked about this before, but if we're producing enough of and so the frequency that we measure from outside of the brain, we're measuring that from the electrical activity within the brain, but we're not measuring the electricity directly. So it's not like there's an electrical current that's flowing from our brain to the EEG meter or whatever tool they're using to measure that. What they're measuring is the wavelengths that are an emergent property of the electrical activity within the brain. But it is still a form of energy, and it could still be converted into electricity. But there would need to be some sort of external source for that electricity, because the amount of energy it would take for us to produce enough of a frequency to produce an electrical current externally would, I mean, I'm not a physicist, but like, it would be a ridiculous amount. It would take us a ridiculous amount of brain energy to produce something that strong, to the point where like we would burn out. Like, I don't even think we have enough calories in our bodies to sustain some sort of external electrical current for any extended period of time. And that's basically why we haven't done it and why we don't do it. But if there is some other power source to help supplement that electricity, then yes, and that's how it works. You know, we can have this EEG meter, and you could hold it up over here, and it could have a little light on it, and you can make it light up basically based on your thought patterns. And absolutely, but still, most of still really the electrical power will be coming from batteries or from a plug in the wall or something, because you know, we can only burn so many calories in this brain and produce so much energy. That would just be an insane amount. But I thought that was a good question. What else do we got? Oh, let me check out the YouTube stream real quick. Oh yeah, we're here. What up, people? Cool. And let me go back over to Facebook and see if that shared out okay. Yes, it did. Or no, it didn't. Yo, they're going crazy with those fireworks out there. For some reason, that one link didn't work. That's weird. It's getting warm in here. I might have to open the window. I'm not sure how long I want to be up here. I do have that video that just dropped on YouTube. I want everyone to go watch that, because I put a lot of work and a lot of research into that. But wow, they're really letting those fireworks go. That's crazy out there. I wonder if I could bring you guys out there and we could see them. I don't think it's that far away. All right, so that's cool. Let's get back to some more questions then. Okay, beautiful. Okay, let me. I know I got some more questions over here. Let me go find them. Some of these ones are pretty mundane. I don't want to. I'm not even gonna bother with those. Oh yeah. Hmm. Okay, so this question again. Some of these names are so weird, man. Hugh Ho Heels asked me, "What's the most surprising or unexpected thing that you've learned in your study of dreams that challenged your initial assumptions?" Uh, Depends on which direction we want to take that in. If I'm gonna be completely honest, and the most surprising thing, honestly, um, okay, so we'll go in both directions. One of the most surprising things is how uncannily accurate some people have been with their dreams of the future. That's what surprised me. Because my whole idea behind it was that, and that's one of the things that got me into dreams, was that I had a dream about the future and something that actually came true. Now, my dream was more metaphorical and it wasn't like completely literal. So, and I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but let me just paint the picture just for context here. Like, I had a dream of my grandfather passing away, and then I woke up. I was woken up out of that dream from my mom. We went to the hospital because my grandpa was in the hospital, so we went there to see him. This was like really late in the night or early in the morning or something. And he ended up dying in the hospital. So, and she woke me up from my dream, and in that dream I was having, he died in that dream. So I always thought I've always been fascinated with dreams. Basically, from that day on, it gave me that feeling, that deep feeling of some sort of inner universal, maybe even cosmic connection. But then I had to apply some rational thinking to it. Like in the dream, my grandfather, he wasn't even him, actually. He was someone else, but it was him. And anyone if you've had dreams like that, I think you can understand what I'm saying. Sometimes you dream about someone, and in the dream, it might not look like the actual person, but in a way, it's still that person. It feels like that person. It has the essence of that person. And when you're interacting with them in your dream, you're interacting with that person. So it was my grandpa, even though it didn't look like him or anything in the dream, but it was still my grandpa in the dream, and it was that grandpa that died. So uh and in the dream, we were in a burning house. This was long before I started writing my dreams down. Uh so obviously the details are fuzzy, and I don't know how much I've done my best to try to not influence it over time and change the story, but all I remember specifically is that we're in this giant house, and the giant house was burning down. I remember it was a two-story house, and however, whatever happened, I made it out of the house. The rest of my family was out there, but my grandpa was in the house. And my mom in the dream was like screaming and screaming for him to get out. And I don't remember how I knew it, but somehow in the dream I felt like he was in the house still trying to save people, but we were all already outside. And then he burned down with the house. And obviously, that's not how he died in real life. So, as far as like dreams predicting the future, I had to be honest with myself. Like, if I had had a dream of this specific hospital that I was in when he died, and if he had died in that exact way and I saw the same exact things, that would have been a bit more powerful. But because it happened in a metaphorical way, I can kind of just attribute it potentially to a coincidence. I can't rule that out. And I know a lot of people have a lot of stories about their dreams predicting the future. It's a very, very common thing. And my main, just one thing that I always got to keep in mind, and my main argument, and I don't know if I've ever said this even out loud, but it's something I always keep in my brain. And when people are trying to tell me about their dreams that predicted the future, I don't necessarily want to shoot them down, but I got to be honest with myself. What's going on in my head, what I'm internally processing is usually I'm thinking something like, and I think I have said this on live streams a few times in the past, but like, there's a lot of people on this earth, and we all have more than one dream every night. Most people have 4 to 5 dreams every single night, and they don't even realize it. And this has been tested and widely proven, but there's a lot of people on this earth, and every single night, every one of those people basically is having multiple dreams. And then the next day, lots of people wake up and lots of things happen. So, what are the chances of someone's dreams specifically coming true? Just even as an individual, think about it. Like, say you have 4 to 5 dreams every night, and how many dreams? Say I'm 33 years old, so I've had a lot of dreams throughout my life. If I were to have a dream tonight that predicted the future perfectly, I would say, well, what are the chances of that happening? The chances are so slim. They might be 1 in a billion. But hey, there's multiple billions and billions of people having dreams every night. So the chances of one of those dreams potentially, or even a few of those dreams even coming true, like even exactly down to the detail, the chances might be 1 in a billion. But if that's the case, then the chances are pretty good that here and there, some people are going to have dreams that will be of something that it happens exactly as it happens in the future. And that's just by chance. It's actually bound to happen regardless. So that's my argument against it. But it doesn't mean that I think that dreams can't tell the future, that we can't tap into some sort of other timeline. Who am I to say? But I think that's a good way to approach it skeptically, at least, to be honest about it. Like, there are many, many billions of dreams happening every day, and some of them are bound to come true just by chance. I know that might sound ignorant, but it's the truth. What else do we got? Let's see. I'm sorry, my chair, this is not my usual position. I'm usually over there on the rug, and I usually have the chair boosted up higher. So like, my legs are bent too much here. You know what? Let me try to adjust real quick. There we go, that's better. Alright, I'm gonna have to lift this up a little bit. Oh no, what did I do? Okay. Okay, that's a little bit better. Alright. Alright, cool. Yo, Cliff, if you're still watching, homie, I've been meaning to ask you, did you read the ebook? And if you did it help you? I want to know. I'm actually, for everyone that did download the ebook, at least for everyone that I sent it to through email, I'm going to be reaching out to everyone to see if they got any results from it. Honestly, I want to know. I'd like to get some testimonies, especially before I start putting out the printed version of it. I thought that would be a good idea. I know 2 people so far that told me it helped them, at least directly. I think it's like, at this point, it's gotten like 20 something downloads. So I'm pretty confident there's got to be some people out there that got some help from it. I'm hoping. All right, what else? What else do we got? Looks like we're about to be going on an hour. Like I said, I do have to work tomorrow. It's an overtime day, and it's a extra long shift, so I definitely want to get some rest tonight. I don't want to be here too late. Anyone who's watching, go check out my video on YouTube that just dropped earlier. It's a really deep one. You know one thing I learned recently, before I get back to these questions, I'll probably make a video about it tonight. I mentioned it in that full video, but I thought it was interesting. They found cannabis residue in the Holy of Holies in Telerad, in an ancient Israel compound. The Holy of Holies that they talk about in the Bible, where they go to pray to Yahweh. The temple at Telerad, it's basically like a mini version of the Jerusalem temple. And in that temple, at Telerad, they had 2 stone monuments. One was a little bit smaller than the other one. The big monument represented Yahweh, and the smaller monument represented Asherah. And this is more evidence that Asherah, the goddess, was worshipped alongside Yahweh. But in 2020, relatively recently, there's residue on top of these stone pillars, the one for Asherah and the one for Yahweh. Recently, they found the residue on these pillars. They scraped it off and tested it. And the big pillar that represented Yahweh, they found evidence of frankincense and animal fat, which would have been used to burn the frankincense. But on the smaller stone pillar that represented Asherah, they found traces of THC and CBD and CBN. So the ancient Israelites, the ancient Jewish people, were burning cannabis in the temple of Yahweh, in the Holy of Holies. I thought that was really interesting. And they must have been burning a lot of it, because it's very thick resin that was built up on these pillars. And this was around, I want to say, like, I could get the date wrong, I forget, but it was between like 500 and 700 BC. Actually, I think it was 635 BC. Yeah, it would have been around that time. So, yeah, and the only reason it was preserved for so long is because when Hezekiah and Josiah came in and destroyed the temple during the reform, they knocked these pillars down, face down, and buried it all. And that basically preserved it. So when we were able to dig it up years later, when they first dug it up, it was in like the 1960s, and they didn't test the residue. But then in 2020, they tested it and they found cannabis residue. So, and a lot of the church people don't like that, because they've disassociated with psychedelics over the years. But yeah, the ancient Israelites were burning cannabis in the temple of Yahweh, for sure, and they were worshiping Asherah alongside Yahweh. So I do cover some of that in the new video that just dropped, but I plan on putting a separate video out just about that, because there's more details I'd like to cover. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Okay, let's get back to the questions. Okay, this is a good one from Xbase ROR000. Don't know what your name is or how to say it, or if there's even a good way to say it. But whoever you are, this one was from YouTube as well. He said, "Could lucid dreaming be dangerous? For instance, if we're dream walking while we're having a lucid dream." I think that's a great question. That's a fun thought. Uh, and yeah, the answer is yes. I've never heard of that. But there's no reason physically why you can't have a lucid dream and potentially still have your motor cortex being active, uh, your motor controls in your prefrontal cortex may not be shut down all the way, and you could potentially act out your lucid dream. Although I've never heard of it, I didn't actually specifically look it up. Maybe I should do that and look more into it, but that's definitely a fun thought, and I think it's definitely potentially possible, especially if you're more prone to sleepwalking. So if that's the case, and if you've trained yourself to lucid dream efficiently, just try to make sure you fly around when you're lucid dreaming and try not to walk around too much, because then you should be pretty safe. If you've gained the ability to fly while you're lucid dreaming, if you're capable of doing that, you should definitely do that, because then at least you'll just stay laying in bed thinking you're flying around instead of kicking and punching and walking and falling downstairs potentially. You know what? That might be dangerous advice. Maybe don't try to fly while you're lucid dreaming, because, geez, you might go sleepwalk off of your roof or something. I don't know. But the answer is yes. I think that's a fun thought. I never thought about that before. Uh, yeah, it's these religious comments have gotten to the point where I'm not even gonna take the time to address them in the live sessions. I almost feel compelled to start doing making anti-Christian videos. I'm sorry. Oh, Cliff, you said summarize your book. Had read a chapter, do audio/video version subjects. Cliff, I'm definitely gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that tonight, but I plan on that. Honestly, that's a great idea. I do have the audio version. I recorded an audio for it. I have to just finish clipping it a little bit, just clean it up a little bit, and I have to actually put it out there, put the MP3 up there. But I definitely doing that. Thank you, man. Thank you. That's a good idea. And then yes, I'm gonna be doing a video version of it. So I'm gonna do a live dream session here where we do a book reading. So maybe I should make that the next session. I'm already an hour into this, and I don't think I'm going to dedicate this to that, but I do want to do that. I want to do a full video of the book reading. So if you're down for that, Cliff, maybe we can do that next week. I will announce it ahead of time, and I'll try to get as many people into the space for when we actually do it. And then, yes, we'll have a video version of it, and I'll also, by then I should have the MP3 audio version up of it. That's a great idea, and I will do that. And then even after we do that, we could do follow-up sessions of just digesting individual chapters or something, if that sounds like a good idea. But my overall goal is to make a lucid dreaming course, because a few people have asked me if I have courses available. And so that's the plan. I'm gonna make a lucid dreaming course, like a paid course. Obviously, I'll make it as cheap as I possibly can, but I want to put a lot of work into it and make it really valuable for people. And that's going to come along with like group sessions, live sessions, and individual videos that are going to be much more strategic and specific deep dives on every aspect of that book. And yeah, so I'm working on. I'm going to be making a course for that on how to master your dreams, and the book's going to go along with that. But before I do all that, I'll definitely just do a video version of it. We could do a live book reading or something, and I will put out the audio version. And then for anyone that like buys the physical copy of the book, I'll give them all the downloads for free, or maybe I'm still not sure exactly how I'm going to structure it, but trust me, Cliff, there's a lot more coming out on that subject, and just there's going to be a lot more blossoming just from that book that you'll be seeing in the future. The other thing is that if I'm going to do courses on how to master your dreams, first I want to do my courses on symbolism. So that's why I'm a little bit apprehensive with that, but we could do a live dream session of just the book reading, and then I'm going to form the course over the series of the next few months. But I want to start out with symbolism. So before we even get into remembering your dreams and methods to lucid dream, I want to do some stuff on symbolism so that by the time people learn their dreams, they'll already have a good understanding of symbolism. So, and I'm working on that. Just last night I was taking a bunch of notes for that. The first video is going to be about the psychology of symbolism, and there's some experiments in that video that we're going to do together, and it's going to be fun. I'm really excited to put that out. And once we go over the psychology of symbolism, then we'll get into ancient esoteric symbols, and I'll go through the whole dictionary of symbols and all that. I'm working on that. I am working on that, and it's going to be really comprehensive and really deep, and there's going to be a lot to it. And I'll probably do a video for each topic. So I'll do a psychology of symbolism video, and then I'll do a ancient symbolism video, and then I'll do a modern symbolism video, connecting it more with like modern day advertisements and things we see around us and stuff like that. And then I'll do a video just on symbolism in dreams. But every one of those videos is going to work together. So none of them are going to stand alone. And then I'll probably release like the first parts, like maybe the first 5-10 minutes of each one of those videos, but I'm going to put them all together in a course, a symbolism course for people. And then I'll also put out an ebook on the symbolism, and I'll have the symbols, the picture of the symbols and their meanings next to them, and their common associations and some of their less common associations and their ancient associations and their modern associations and how to bridge the gap between the two. I'm working on all that. And once the symbolism course is done, then I can start on the remembering your dreams and mastering your dreams. And as I'm making the content for the dreams, I can point people back to the symbolism videos and tell them, like, if you're, once you start remembering your dreams, if you're trying to interpret them and understand them, I can point them towards those symbolism courses and videos. So that's why I want to make the symbolism stuff first before I really dive into the mastering your dreams stuff. And of course, there's just so much to it. I don't want to slack on it, so I'm making it as comprehensive as I possibly can. But yeah, Cliff, maybe next week we'll do a live book reading. That's a good idea. What else? How long we been up here? Just over an hour now. I don't have that many more questions that I would even feel like addressing tonight. Yo, Briar, what up, man? What's good, homie? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I see all the love that you show to the videos, homie. I really do appreciate that. You're the man. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep doing my thing. I haven't been going up live as much as I used to, but oh, cool. Yeah, Briar, you're a good dude. Thank you. I'll see you Tuesday, homie. I'm going in for overtime tomorrow, so. All right, so we're over an hour into this. I'm not sure how much longer I want to keep going. I got to go use the bathroom and stuff. I'd like to go sit outside. It's hot in here. I opened the window. I don't want to turn the fan on because it might mess up the sound. But I want to go sit outside probably. And I would bring the phone outside with me, but it's too dark out there to even see anything. Unless I turn on the outside lights. But yeah. I don't know. I might call it a night. I'm gonna go run and use the bathroom real quick and grab myself some tea, and I'll be right back, and then we can hit maybe two more questions here, and then I'll probably call it a night. I'll be right back. Okay, people. We're back. All right, so there's one question that I've been pretty apprehensive about. But you know what? I figure let's just go through it. And this will probably take me long enough to where we could call it a night after this. This is a question I wasn't even sure if I was going to answer this because I don't always want to go in this direction, but it seems like I have no choice with all the different comments I get on this topic. So hey, where did the TikTok comments go? Seems like they disappeared. I don't see any of the comments from TikTok anymore. Well, that's strange. I don't understand how that works, but if anyone's still watching from TikTok, throw up an emoji or throw a comment up and let me see if I could see it because it looks like it cleared the slate for me. I don't get that. I'm still new to the TikTok stuff, but all right. All right, so this question is from Doors Deep. Doors Deep. They said, "How can you talk about dreams without talking about God? If dreams aren't in this physical world, they must come from God." Now, I don't know if this is a trolling comment or maybe it was like a little kid or something. And like I said, I was apprehensive about answering this because I didn't want to get too much into it. But like the short answer would be that I do talk about God. So like what do you mean? Just because I might not be falling victim to the religiosity that other people do, we talk about God all the time. It's that's why I've been apprehensive about answering this because I talk about it so much. I almost don't want to always talk about it, although it's definitely a foundational part of this entire culture here and the entire the world of dreams. But that's a presuppositionalist position that you would take. It does not logically follow that because we have a non-physical experience that may seem nostalgic and emotional and intellectual in ways that is beyond this physical realm, that doesn't necessarily follow that there's a God. And even if you try to use it to take you that far, and I know the person who left that comment is probably never going to see this, but it is something to think about. And I think it's an important distinction to make, that even if, as I always say, even if you want to say that was inspired by some sort of divine power, that doesn't get you any closer to a God of the Bible. Or, I don't know what this person was. I don't know if they're Muslim or Jewish or Hindu, whatever. Even if you're not monotheistic, it doesn't get you any closer to any distinct version of a God. So don't think that that's a strong argument for any type of specific theology. Just like anything, I think you can make strong arguments for Spinoza's God or an abstract universal God, but it's not going to get you any closer to the Abrahamic God or any specific anthropomorphized God that's out there, as I always say. And I could go on about that all night, but I'm just going to let that sit there. That's all I have to say. And regardless, it doesn't necessarily follow, okay? So either way, it's kind of a pointless comment, but I thought I should probably address that. And yeah, I don't know if I even have the ability to see the TikTok comments. Oh, okay. You know what? There they are. There it is. See, who would have thought? Cool. Could I go over the rest of the chapters condensed, short, simply? Yeah, I can do that. I mean, we could even do that right now. My phone's at 37%. It dies really quick when I do these live streams because I don't have an external power source for this microphone. So it's plugged directly into my phone and it's fed into the preamp and kills my phone pretty fast. So I'm at 37%. Yeah, Cliff, we could definitely sum it up here if you want. We could go over some of the chapters. But again, I would like to definitely dedicate a full session to that. But yeah, let's do a quick summary here. Let me just find it. And that's the other thing. I have a expanded version of that book, and then I have the more condensed version that I put out in the ebook. Only because honestly, I don't think I'm even gonna use the expanded version, even when I make the printable version of it, because I don't want to like I don't want people to I got to keep people's attention. And as you know, Cliff, you probably know better than most people how much I can ramble on and go down different side tangents that probably distract people from the main point like I'm doing right now. So so yeah, let's see. I do have the expanded version here, but let's just go over the basic condensed version. Yeah, so I put these things in the most logical order that I could. The first chapter talks about sleep stages and cycles, and if you don't read any other part of this book, you could get a lot just from understanding the sleep stages and cycles. And it's nuanced. It's not like there's a like a one size fits all for anybody. But understanding the basic overall layout and composition of sleep cycles in general can give you a good starting point to work from. And if you just learn your own sleep if you just learn the sleep cycles and then learn your own sleep cycles and learn how your body goes through it individually depending on which day and which time, if that's all you learn from this book, you could take that information and do so much with it, as far as just getting better rest at night. If you want to, if you feel tired throughout the day, it can help teach you how to take more effective power naps and things like that. Like, and then on top of that, just learning how to connect with your dreams, or if you're trying to astrally project or something like that. All of this starts with understanding the sleep cycles, because our brain goes through different stages while we're sleeping, and depending on what state the brain is in, you can you can predict and come up with and manipulate different outcomes depending on what state that it's in at that moment. So, I talked in the History of Dreams video about how Salvador Dali used to sit in a comfortable chair holding like a key or something over a plate, and as he would fall asleep, the key would slip out of his hand and fall onto the plate and wake him up. And he would do this intentionally, and then when he woke up, he would write down the dreams that he was inspired by, or the images, or even just like the feelings, or the fleeting sounds he may have heard. And that's when you're in the hypnagogic state. That's the first stage of sleep. And that's where when you're first falling asleep and you're kind of in between awake and sleeping. And you can dream in that state, but it's a different type of dream. It's not the same as the dreams that happen in REM sleep. They're much more abstract. They're much more blended with the outside, with the external reality. They're much more fleeting and I would say like evanescent. It would be the right word. Like they don't last long. Yeah, because the hypnagogic stage doesn't last very long actually, and that's when you first start falling asleep. Uh, it typically only lasts a few minutes, but if you're completely exhausted or something, you could pretty much skip the hypnagogic state and go straight into the delta stage sometimes. But Cliff, at this rate, my phone's gonna die before. I'm not good at doing quick overviews, condensed and short. I'm already wasting a bunch of time here. But yeah, the hypnagogic state is defined by muscle twitches or jerks. Uh, Hold on, I gotta go back over to TikTok because I don't know if I'm okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So yeah, that's the hypnagogic state. You can get certain sounds or snippets of conversations when you're in the hypnagogic state, and it can be. You said extended details separately, perhaps. Yeah, yeah, man. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Like I said, that's my plan. I want to literally just do like a video of of the book reading, and then I want to do separate videos that are going to be like hour-long deep dives on every individual chapter because I'm not good at summarizing this stuff, as you see. But yeah, so that's the hypnagogic state when you first start to fall asleep. So okay, so my point is that I'm not going to go through all the stages right now, but it's important to understand the different stages of sleep so that you could understand your own sleep patterns and learn to manipulate them in ways. And that's how you really start to train your brain. And once you understand your sleep cycles, you can start to try to learn how to remember your dreams. Uh, you can have intense, vivid dreams. They've even had people in labs that had lucid dreams where they communicate with the people while they're lucid dreaming. And then that person wakes up and has no recollection of the dream at all. So, a lot of people, when we first learned that everybody dreams every night, basically, we figured maybe you only remember them based on the intensity of the dream, but that's not the case. There's a lot more to it because you could have vivid and intense dreams and still wake up and not remember them. But the number one key factor in remembering your dreams and the most reliable way for scientists to have people recall their dreams is to actually wake up in the middle of the dream. If you keep sleeping and you keep you keep cycling through these sleep stages, uh, the dreams are more likely to fade away and get washed out by the ones that follow it. And there's neurochemicals that are released when we wake up that are responsible for us forgetting those dreams, and obviously that's just so that we don't mix all of our dreams with reality. But uh, I lost my train of thought. But my point is that yeah, so the most reliable way to remember your dreams is to learn to wake up in the middle of them. And even if you might not want to interrupt yourself from a beautiful dream, but if you get good at these techniques and the timings, you can pretty quickly enter back into the same dream or a similar one or one that's just as good, basically. I've never been very good at recreating the same exact dreams, but I mean, I've never tried, I've tried it, but anytime I've done it, I end up in a different dream, but it's always good anyway. So it's like, I'm not complaining, whatever. But my point is that, well, yeah, once you understand those sleep stages and cycles, you can figure out when you're most likely to be lucid or to be in the REM stage. You can set your alarm to wake you up in the middle of that REM stage. And this is the wake back to bed method. You get up, you could walk around real quick and then sit back down and go back to sleep, and then set your alarm for 15 minutes or 30 minutes after that, because if you get up in the middle of REM sleep, if you are to wake up and then go back to sleep, you're more likely to dive straight back down into that REM stage while some of your prefrontal cortex is still awake enough to be aware of it. So it's a great way to enter back into a dream and remember, and it's a great way to help yourself lucid dream too. But the first step to remembering your dreams is really just keeping a dream journal and set the intention to remember them. And that's why I always talk about dream journals. Bren became the number 2 fan in the club. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, the Watcher. What up? I appreciate all the love you always show. The watcher said, my daughter can wake herself up. I don't always remember my dreams. When I do, it's a message. That makes sense. That does make perfect sense. um, but yeah, there's ways to train yourself to remember your dreams. And that's what we're talking about. That's what my new ebook is about, actually. And another great way to try to start remembering those dreams is to get a dedicated dream journal. And again, you could go to my shop. You could find my link tree in my bio, and I got dream journals, custom ones available. If you want me to customize it, I could even put your name on it or a special quote or any picture you want, really. But definitely go to my Etsy shop and get yourself a dream journal. But in the meantime, get a dedicated dream journal, no matter what you want to use. But it does help a lot to not just use like a scrap of paper or something. It's good to get something that's dedicated to it because it'll subconsciously flip that switch in your mind. And, there's been times where I've gotten a nice new dream journal and I've doodled in it and made it all nice how I wanted. And it sat there for months before I actually remembered the dream to write it down. But it helps to have it there. And it can really make all the difference. And as I always say, if you want to, you can write your dreams down in your phone. And this is just thinking about doing this is going to help you remember them more. Just the subconscious idea of recalling your dreams and writing them down will kind of keep that in the back of your brain for when you wake up in the morning, and you're more likely to actually recall them just through setting that intention. It's the placebo effect. You can definitely trick yourself to remember your dreams. And in the ebook, I have a lot more tips on how to do that. But like another thing you can do once you get that dream journal, or even if you're just using your phone, if you have nothing in there, if it's just sitting there blank, and that could be pretty discouraging. You might feel weird like laying in bed and writing your dreams in this journal if it's not something that you're familiar with, especially if you have like a partner next to you and they're going to be like, what the hell are you doing? And it might feel kind of weird, but that's okay. Actually, it's healthy and it's good to get past that part of it. But one way to get that ball rolling is to just think about some dreams you've had in the past. 'Cause some people tell me they don't ever remember their dreams. And it's funny because usually after talking to those people 2 or 3 times, even about unrelated things, they end up coming to me and telling me that they just remembered a dream, and then it keeps happening. This has happened with a few different people I know who told me that they haven't remembered a dream in years. They never remember them. We have a couple quick conversations about it. I see them a few days or a few weeks in the future, and they tell me, "Oh, by the way, I actually had a dream, and I remembered it, and all this stuff." And they always tell me about it, and that's cool to hear. But a lot of times, it's just from flipping that subconscious switch in your mind. But another great way is to just try to think of dreams that you've had in the past. Everyone can recall a dream from the past. So get your dream journal, familiarize yourself with it, get used to that feeling of writing things, and try to recall some dreams from the past and write them down. Write them down as if they're actually happening. So write it down in the first person perspective, and as if they're happening in the present tense. So think about the dream you had and then start writing like, I'm walking through the door. I looked out the window and I picked up the cup, and then my sister entered the room, or whatever, like write it as if you're experiencing it, and that'll kind of get you back in the shoes. It'll get you back in that perspective of that dream state. And when you go to sleep that night, after a few nights, even, it might take a few nights. Like I said, for me, there's been times where it took months, but just writing down my old dreams, and then it gets your mind thinking about them more. And uh go to sleep at night. If you can't think of any more to write down, just read over some of the old ones, and it'll get you more familiar with what your dream content is. And yeah, I think that's like that kind of addresses one of the first questions we got earlier, but I think you can get a message from almost any dream. Some might be more significant than others, but every dream has a potentially significant message. The Watcher. Yeah, okay, you said you'll definitely try that. Yeah, there's so many different ways to approach it, so many different things to try. That's why I definitely go to my bio, go to my link tree, and you can find the free ebook in there. It's a all you got to do is throw in your email. You could download the ebook, and anyone should be able to read it in an hour or two, give or take. And yeah, I will be making more videos on that in the future, though, coming up. Brian, you said yes, if you incorporate astrology, listening to the 12th house, rulers, NASA recording helps. Sure, sure. Yes, Watcher, definitely. Thank you. Yo, thank you for all the love that you show. I definitely see you out there, and I appreciate all of it. Um, astrology is a whole nother topic that we could get into, but yeah, whatever works for you, whatever works for you. There's endless approaches to it, and again, it always depends on your perspective too, and that's why I mentioned the placebo effect in the beginning. And I'm not downplaying the astrology. I'm not saying that some sort of external astrological bodies can't have an effect on our dream states. Obviously, the potential for that is definitely there. But my point is that just from the most fundamental level, if you believe that a God will help you remember your dreams or will give you a message in your dreams and you pray to that God, you're more likely to experience those dreams. If you believe that a guided meditation will get you there, there's actually more psychological reasons why guided meditations work, and they're very effective. But if you get yourself worked up in any type of ritualistic fashion and try to impose that energy on your dreams or on your subconscious at night, you'll definitely get some sort of results from it. It's not always what you would expect, but there's something to it. So my point is that whatever perspective you use to tap into that realm, that's not what's most important. What's most important is just doing it, whatever it happens to be for you. You know, whether you approach it from an astrological or psychological or spiritual or religious perspective, whatever approach you want to take to it, take some approach to it. That's all I'm saying, because it's really powerful. And I've talked to skeptics, I've talked to believers of almost every denomination, from Jehovah Witnesses to Buddhist, and there's a common connection that we can all find in the dream realm. Whatever, even if whatever you think about reality at the most fundamental level, we can all share this mysterious experience that we have at night, and it's definitely something that onerology and the scientific study of dreams has come a long way, but it's still such a dominant realm that's outside of our direct reach. And it's powerful. There's so much to it, and like psychedelics is a whole different conversation. We could go there, but like, yeah, there's so many different approaches to remembering dreams and to channeling messages in your dreams. And that the ebook that I have just gives everyone a good solid foundation. And if you want to study astrology, because I could spend the rest of my life studying all the vast details of astrology and trying to understand every nuance of it, and that's cool, but it's like I've basically made the conscious decision to not do that, because there's only so much time in the day, and I'm fascinated with it, and I do look into it, but it's like, and I've even got some books about it here, but it's like I have to pick and choose. So uh, and that's why I like talking to people. That's why I like doing these public discussions, because I get a lot of feedback from like-minded people from different perspectives. Oh, those. Oh, you mean psychedelics? You said my experience was whatever I think is gonna pop right in front of me, and it did. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, yep. And that happens in lucid dreaming, and that could be to your own detriment. Sometimes you might think of something that you might not want to pop in front of you, and uh, that's what always got me kind of thinking, like, from the new age perspective of like manifestation, if our minds are creating our realities in a literal and direct way, it's good that this physical world provides us some buffer zone, some buffer time, like it needs to be solidified and rooted in our mind in a certain way before we're able to attract it in our life, because we would just make an elephant pop up in the room in the middle of nowhere, and that could be dangerous for everyone. So it's good that we have this buffer zone in this physical reality between our mental manifestation, if you even believe in that type of stuff. But yeah, when you're taking psychedelics and in lucid dreams, there's much less of a buffer between your thoughts and your conscious manifestation. So yeah, sometimes things can just pop right. Even, you said you actually thought that, but sometimes that happens unintentionally. That has happened with me unintentionally, and sometimes that's helped spark my lucidity before. Like if I'm having a nightmare about like a monster or something, and I'm like, and trying to punch it, and my punches are weak, but then I just imagine my fist getting giant, and like I throw a Popeye punch, and it actually happens, and then I'm like, oh, I must be dreaming. It's yeah, that thoughts popping up right in front of you, that's something that has helped spark my lucid dreams before. It's sparked my lucidity and my awareness before. All right, my phone's at 20%. What do you think, Cliff? Should we keep going? I really got to do just a full reading of this book. Another tip, the next chapter in the book too, it talks about reality checks. And again, that's another thing. There's endless ways to do reality checks. You can try to put your finger through your palm. You can try to fly, stand there and just try to lift up in the air. You can look at your hands and try to count your fingers. Sometimes it'll be tough to count. It'll be abstract. Sometimes you'll have an extra finger. Sometimes you won't have enough fingers. You can look at a clock or look at any words around you and see if they're strange. And you can look at a clock or look at some words and then look away for a second, look back and see if it changed or if it says the same thing. That's another good way to do a reality check and see if you're actually dreaming. Another thing is you can pinch your nose and try to breathe in. And if you're able to breathe in through your nose, even while you pinch it, then right away you're going to realize you're dreaming. There's so many different ways to do it, and it's important to just try different things and learn what works for you. And then even if you find something that does work, if you find over time that it doesn't work as much as it used to, you might have to switch it up and try something else, because again, that familiarity, that might make it more dull in your mind. But yeah, and it might feel weird. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, I'm at 22%, and it might feel weird to do these things in public in front of people. So just try to find something. I mean, really, I would just say, who cares? Like, who gives a shit? Go ahead and stand on your tippy toes and try to fly while you're waiting in line. Like, who cares what people think around you? But that's why I like the finger through the palm is a good test. But, this likens back to the common moniker of pinching yourself while you're dreaming. And we know very well that pinching yourself to see if you're dreaming doesn't always work. just like all of these reality checks that I just mentioned, any one of them, they might not work. Uh, the pain receptors in your brain can light up when you pinch yourself in a dream, even if you don't get pinched in reality. So when they have these EEG meters hooked up to people while they're dreaming, if those people are experiencing pain in their dreams, their brain shows that they're actually experiencing pain. So you can get that experience. It is on a more mild level, but it can be pretty intense sometimes. Like people who report they wake up and say that they were having dreams about burning. We've talked about these. I've covered some of these reports in great detail in the past, but they wake up and say that they were dreaming. Their brain scan shows that they were experiencing high levels of cortisol and stress, and their pain receptors were lit up, you know? So Cliff, you said circles, spheres, galaxies, universe, self-balancing on bubbles, orbital zones, motion, unisons, relative, energizing sources, dreams, dimensional beams. Word. Thank you, Cliff. Word to that. Yeah, you're a poet, Cliff. Uh, so my point here is that you could pinch yourself in your dream and you might feel it still. It might be a good way to do a reality check, but sometimes you're so grounded and solidified in that dream that you experience the same things you would in your physical life. So that's why it's good to do multiple reality checks at any time. But there's so many things you could do, so many different things. Another great thing is to try to write down a word and again, look away and then look back and see if that word stayed consistent. This works for a lot of people. They'll say when they look back at the word, the letters are mixed up and jumbled or something. And for most people, there's a lot of exceptions to this, but the vast majority of people, uh, the analytical side of their brain doesn't work so well. So it's tough for us to do math problems and stuff while we're dreaming. It's now you can change that, and there's exceptions to that, especially if you start to become lucid. That kind of opens up the analytical side. But mostly we're open to the creative side, the narrated side of our brain, the right side, if you will, the creative side, the what they call the right and left hemisphere, although we know it's not so strictly hemispherical like they thought so much in the past. But if you're familiar with the right side and the left side of the brain, and the right side being the more analytical, or the right side being the more creative and the left side being the more analytical, mathematical, you have less, your people are prone to have less mathematical and analytical awareness while they're dreaming. And there's reasons for that. There's actually survival reasons for that. But um, yeah, perform those reality checks throughout the day. Don't get too comfortable. Don't feel don't feel weird, and don't get sick of it. I did reality checks for years, and then I've went long periods of time without having any lucid dreams. And as soon as I start to spark these reality checks back into it, that's when they start back up a lot. So the point is that if you make these reality checks part of your routine, you're gonna end up trying them inevitably while you're in a dream, just because it's something that you regularly do. So things that you regularly do are gonna get recreated in your dreams inevitably. So do these reality checks regularly, and eventually they're gonna end up making you realize that you're dreaming. And when you do these reality checks throughout the day, don't just do them passively. Do them with intention and a bit of focus. You want to really think like, am I dreaming right now? And always think that if during this reality check, I find out that I'm actually dreaming, what would I do right now? And it opens up that part of your mind a lot, and it'll definitely help you get to explore those worlds. And like, even if even if you're like as sure as you could possibly be that you're not dreaming, you still want to do that reality check and approach it as if you might be dreaming. Never rule that out, because life is but a dream. All right, where are we at? Oh, you said your stepmom spoke to you in your dream, but her mouth didn't move. She said they're leaving and be happy. That's beautiful. Yeah, so it's very, very common for people to see lost loved ones in dreams. And there's also ways to try to induce dreams so you can create the experience of that dream and try to talk to whoever you want, actually. Of one thing that would really help with that, if you download my ebook, you'll definitely, and if you get the tips down in that, you'll definitely be able to learn how to potentially contact those lost loved ones. You said sleep paralysis is a reoccurring thing for me, but I've gotten comfortable to tolerate it. Oh yeah. Sleep paralysis happens, like we were talking about before, that happens in the hypnagogic state, generally. And again, it's just where, the motor functions of your brain shut down so that you don't act out your dreams. And this is where the rest of your brain wakes up, but the motor functions are still shut down. And it's the result of a neurochemical response. But yeah, I've also experienced sleep paralysis enough to get comfortable with it. And there's ways that you can use sleep paralysis to your advantage. So one of my favorite books called Astral Projection and the Nature of Reality. The Watcher, you said that's scary. Yeah, it can be scary. What's cool about sleep paralysis is that it can be used to induce any experience you want, basically. And it's a good way to train yourself with self control, self discipline, and like if you learn how to control your heart rate and stuff like that, this you can do almost anything from that state, from the stage of sleep paralysis. Uh, because you're in the hypnagogic state, when you're experiencing sleep paralysis, you have the potential to cross back over into any type of dream realm you want, any type of imaginary realm you want. And the only reason most people don't is because we're so unfamiliar with that feeling. We get scared that we can't move. Most people hype themselves up and end up like hyperventilating, and they get themselves so worked up that by the time they do get function back, once they get their motor function back and they're able to move, they're wide awake and they're out of breath and they're scared and uncomfortable. But what was cool for me, and like maybe I'm just lucky, but I have read that book. Bren, you said it kind of shares that same what you think then becomes in front of you. Yeah, exactly. Same principle, same exact principle. And when you're in the hypnagogic state, everything your entire experience is really malleable from that stage. That's why so many artists and great thinkers throughout history have used the hypnagogic state to induce, you know, beautiful artwork, or to answer questions that they had, or solve different problems that they had in their life. It's very common. But you said, I've honestly left my body as a child, was able to see my father, but I was above him. Okay, so that sounds like something like astral projection. And yeah, I used to do this. And I thought, like I said, it's one of my favorite books, by far one of my favorite books of all time. It's called Astral Projection and the Nature of Reality. I've talked about it before. I've put up pictures of it on Facebook. And I would recommend that book. But I read that book before I ever experienced sleep paralysis. Now, at that point, my brother had sleep paralysis a few times. I'd even walked in his room as it was happening, and like it could be scary, and I get it, but I was relatively familiar with it before it ever happened to me. So by the time it did happen, I wouldn't say I was relatively familiar with it. I was actually very, very familiar with it, just from an analytical standpoint, by the time I had already experienced it. So when I did experience it, it was basically like, okay, here we are. Like this is it. You know, I was well aware of what was happening. I understood the brain functioning behind it already at that point, so I wasn't scared. I know that it was relatively common, and I knew at that point that a lot of people experienced it and it wasn't something to be afraid of. So, and I know that it feels scary. So I did get that initial jolt of fear of not being able to like lift up my arms. Oh, the Watcher, you said you had never heard of it. Yeah, and that's why it's so scary to people. But if you're familiar with it, it that book, The Astral Projection and the Nature of Reality, it had these I might be conflating that with a different book. It's been so long. In all honesty, like I gave that book away to someone, never got it back. And I haven't read it since I was like 14, 15 years old, maybe. But regardless, I read about this meditation somewhere that you practice when you're in the hypnagogic state. And the point of this meditation was to try to bring on sleep paralysis. And then from there, it would walk you through a series of different mental practices to try to induce astral projection. And I got pretty good at that for, you said the first few times I was like, oh Lord, yeah, word. No, I feel you on that. I can imagine, like, it is scary, and that's why there's been so much mythology written about it throughout history. So many people attributed it to different demons and stuff like that. But you can. So I used to induce astral projection from that state, and it starts out with trying to feel your body vibrate along with your breath. So it's like every time you breathe in, like I would get two vibrations, and every time I would breathe out, I would get two vibrations, and then you basically multiply that to where it's like four vibrations with every breath, and then eight, and it starts to, you can work yourself up to the point where you feel like your entire body is vibrating to the point where it feels like it's so light that you separate from your physical body. And this is a it's a very there's different ways to do it, but it's a very common practice. Most astral projection meditations go along those types of lines with the different stages of vibrations. But my point here is that I did that for a while, and I was convinced that I was astrally projecting, that I was raising up from my body and like flying down the road, and I felt like I could fly to other periods in time, and things like that. The issue was that I tried to test it, and like I hate to be the one to break it to people, but I really think that anytime, until I have evidence to say otherwise, I really think when people are think that they're astrally projecting, it's actually just a very vivid lucid dream. And that's my skeptical side. I have to be honest about it, because I thought I was doing it for a while. I was as convinced as you could possibly be. So I told my friend to write something down on his notebook and leave it on his nightstand next to his bed, and I was going to fly over and tell him what was on that notebook. And I did this multiple times with multiple people, plenty of people that I'm still friends with here on Facebook, although we're not streaming to Facebook actually at the moment. But regardless, needless to say, it never worked, not once. Now, I at first had come up with explanations, and I was talking to other people that were kind of dabbling with some of this stuff at the moment, And like one of the explanations we come up with, and one of the arguments people commonly give me, is that the astral realm, obviously it resonates at higher frequencies than this realm, and there's a disconnect between the astral realm and the physical realm, and you're not actually experiencing the physical realm, you're experiencing some type of mirror of the physical realm. But then there's so many inconsistencies with that. Even when if you believe that, I mean, there's like scientific physical inconsistencies with that. But even if you believe that, there's internal inconsistencies with that. So I mean, I don't know how far we want to get into all that, but like my point is that I have no reason to believe that astral projection's not real. I could make a strong argument for why it could exist, but every single example that anyone has ever given me, every anecdote and every experience I've had personally can be explained as a vivid lucid dream. And I think I had just created those lucid dreams, and I had the same experience that you would have when you're astrally projecting, because I was trying to astrally project. I was reading books about it. So I was creating that experience in those dreams, and I was fully convinced that it was astral projection. And I think we can convince ourselves of almost anything. So again, that doesn't mean it's not real. I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's like, I think it's a type of dream. At best, it could be some metaphysical type of dream, but you said I've only once felt what meditation was. I love it. Yeah, that depends on what you define meditation to be, because like just sitting and jamming to some good music for an extended period of time, when it washes away the rest of the world, that could be its own type of meditation. There's so many different forms and ways to experience meditation. But when you're talking about like the actual like sitting and meditating and focusing on your breath type of stuff, I would highly recommend. I don't do it nearly enough. I used to when I was a teenager, and when I had more time and didn't have to pay bills, and but it's really important for people. And I'm conflicted with that with my kids. I've been thinking about like I'm really considering once a week like shutting off the internet in the whole house. Like every Sunday, everyone in the house can go at least one day a week without being connected to the internet. Can we possibly do that? Like, can these kids put down the damn video games? Like, I fear that kids these days wouldn't be able to sit in a room alone without any video games or anything like that, without their Legos or anything. And I don't think they could do that for any extended period of time and keep their sanity. I think most kids will just start bouncing off the walls literally, and like they get so bored. I don't think they can sit with themselves, with no one else but themselves in their own mind. I mean, obviously, we know that that could be tough. That's why solitary confinement is such a tough punishment. But I think it's important, and I think it's essential, and I think it could build a lot of mental strength to learn to just be with yourself, and to not have distractions. And if you're bored, I've always said like boredom is an insult to your own intelligence. You got just as much or more in here as you do out here. So like make it work, figure it out, find a way to entertain yourself, sing a song, draw a picture, think of a play, write a poem, whatever, like come up with a bunch of rhymes. And I've talked about this with my kids for a long time, and my one son, he brings it up to me a lot, and he knows he can't tell me that he's bored ever. But I mean, especially now because they got all the video games. But even before, like he knew not to tell me that he's bored, and s- you said no noise and relaxed my mind and body. Breathing was the key. Yes, breathing is everything. It really is. And I've tried that. I've tried it. There's so many different breathing exercises, and I love it. You know, I could go on different types of breathing exercises for different types of meditation. That's something we could talk about all day. But there's a simple game I came up with for my son, and it's something that I learned it in like a marketing video that I watched where someone was interacting with a crowd, and it was basically to help them be able to think on their feet when they're like in a business haggle type of situation or making business deals or something. Like for people that aren't good at thinking of comebacks really quick or something. And because I did a lot of battle rap and stuff in the past and a lot of freestyling off the top of my head, these are things that I always like to practice. But I adapted my own methods for them, and one of them is just like something that you could practice alone in a room. It's one of those things that you can do. You don't need anything to be able to do it. You just need your own mind. And like besides thinking of a story or coming up with a poem or riddles is another thing that me and my son have always really gotten into. And I think riddles can be a lot of fun. And if you could try to come up with a logical riddle in your mind that can it's just yeah, but there's this game where this guy he would pick people in the crowd. I don't even remember how it went actually. He would he would oh yeah. What he would do is he would go down the line of like people in the crowd, and he would point to them and he would say, "When I point to you, I want you to point to something in the room, and whatever you point at, say something different than what that thing is." So you point at the light and say shoe, like, and it helps you uh not become engulfed in a conversation, helps you with like abstract thinking and disassociative type of thinking, and helps you think outside of the box in like more highly stressful time constrained situations and things like that. It's a very simple psychological practice, but it's like I was thinking like what like between me and my son, what can we do, so. And a lot of you know what, my phone is gonna die. It's at 5%. But real quick, one thing that I would tell him to do is like, because I tried playing that game with him, but we do it in the car driving down the highway, and like there's only so many things you could point to. So like it gets to the point where we're just pointing to the same things over and over again and then just coming up with different things. So my point was that I told him, and this is actually fun, you could do it with yourself in your own head, or you could do it with any other number of people, but just say a word. And then the person that you say the word to, they have to say a word back to you that's completely unrelated from the word that you said to them. And it makes it tough. It's a lot tougher than you think actually. And and obviously like there's gray areas with the rules and what's actually related and things like that, but it could be a lot of fun. And then you can also like the easier version of that, because sometimes you could get stuck with that, especially if you do like rapid fire. The funnest thing to do was to set a timer, and it's like you can only take 2 or 3 seconds to come up with a response. But an easier thing to do with that is to I say a word to you and just say something related to that word back to me, and that's just a fun thing you can do with kids. And yeah, my phone is at 3%, so it's gonna die. So I'm gonna say goodnight to everyone. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate all you beautiful souls. Go check out my video on YouTube and on TikTok that I just put up. It's an hour-long deep dive on the ancient history of spirit and God. All you guys, I appreciate you so much. But my phone's at 2%, so I gotta hang it up. Uh, I'll be back next week, and I'll let you guys know when I'm coming up live. Thank you all for all the input. Peace and love, people.